He's clearly hit the wall. He's been unhappy with the weather. The weather has been atrocious, but it's come good here at Les Arcs. Maybe he's finished up with too many clothes on. He's hyperventilated, but whatever the reason, Miguel Indurain today appears human, and he's never done that for the past 6 years of the Tour de France.
Later in 1996, on stage 16, Bjorn Riis gave us one of the most vicious climbing attacks we've seen.
That's right, Bill, he did. And in fact, the thing about Hautecam is you tend to start in the sunshine around Lourdes and then you climb up into the mist of the climb. And this was a great show by Bjorn Riis. This is where he frightened all of the opposition away, I think, because he was so dominant. Riis now made sure he was going to win the Tour de France, and the only rival he would have, really, was his own teammate, a certain Jan Ullrich.
Original breakaways all swept up. It's been a good day of racing by just a handful of riders trying to slip away, but they haven't managed to do that. The team car on the left of our picture there was TVM, which means we must be coming up on L'Enroux. The indications are the gaps have been closing all of the time. Miguel Indurain, who was on the attack with Luc Leblanc 2 years ago, conceded the stage win, but really did kill off all of his rivals, sitting there near the front of the pack. And one or two riders beginning to find the sting in the tail here, not least Tony Rominger. There's Evgeny Berzin, who's been rather quiet since he got his good hiding on the road to Sestriere in the Alps. But maybe he'll come back into his own on this climb. Nobody willing. Bjorn Riis seems to be moving up and down the race group here, taking a good look at the riders in the front. There he is, number 21. He's just looked across at one or two of the faces. He keeps on doing it. He's riding alongside the man I think he might think will attack. 111 there, Luc Leblanc. Abraham Olona, Piotr Ugrimov, Evgeny Berzin, all of the big names are still in this front group. Going off from the side of Virenque is Bjorn Riis, and now from Ullrich. Ullrich looks across at him, and you know, Ullrich has sort of sat back there and allowed his team captain to accelerate. And well, having said that, they've come back to him. And the rider who's brought them back is Miguel Indurain. Today we have got to see the start of the return of Miguel if he's going to get back all of the time he has lost. The majority of it, of course, coming on the climb to Les Arcs more than a week ago. The yellow jersey, it's a fine sight when the man who leads the Tour has all of the strength to dominate the front of the main group, as he's doing here. There's nobody in front of this group now. Indurain trying desperately to ride alongside him and remind him just who he is. Richard Virenque takes a good look at them. He continues to build his lead in the King of the Mountains. Yet another brutal acceleration by Bjorn Riis. Another attack by Bjorn Riis. This has got to be his third or fourth attack here. He keeps on softening them up, but they still claw their way back up. This he's keeping on a little bit longer because he's spread the whole field in this breakaway. As Bjorn Riis goes once more, I think it's Laurent Dufaux who's trying to get up to him. And Indurain is slipping down. He's lost the grip of first wheel up by the leader, Bjorn Riis. Indurain is moving back down the field here, and I wonder if he's cracked again. Indurain, it seems, started this climb with a determination to show either himself or the race he was still very much in it, because he rode right on the front, but he could not take that third or fourth acceleration from Bjorn Riis. He's now under that 5 kilometers to go banner. His lead is nosing up. This is the chase group of Bjorn Riis, led by Laurent Dufaux, Richard Virenque, Luc Leblanc. Leonardo Pipoli is the fourth man who's done a good ride to get across. Rominger now the driving power in the chase group, trying to recuperate some of that lost time. They're not going to catch this man, though. He won at Sestriere to get the yellow jersey. He's now going to win his first day in the Pyrenees at Hautecam to increase his lead in it. And what class! Virenque, Dufaux, Pipoli sitting here at the back as he rides behind the three Frenchmen, well, two Frenchmen and a Swiss, but three French-speaking riders. And look at this now, a signal from Riis to say, it's me, I'm number one. A determined face on him, he sprints up towards the line. This is going to be one of Bjorn Riis's greatest ever victories now, to win at a stage like this when you wear the maillot jaune, to look at the riders and blow them one by one off your wheel. You know you are the very best. Tony Rominger is going to be best of the rest with a 6th place finish, but he's going to lose the best part of a minute and a half or more. And just behind him is Jan Ullrich, another fine ride by this youngster who was the 1993 World Amateur Champion. A great sprinter, a great time trialist and a great climber. All the qualities you need to one day win the Tour de France. Miguel Indurain is going to finish in 12th place, a far cry from the second place just behind Luc Leblanc of 2 years ago when he was already in a commanding overall lead. I think it's safe to say now Indurain is not going to win his 6th successive Tour de France, and he'll stay a member of the famous 5 club.
In stage 13, 1997, we saw Marco Pantani take a win on L'Alpe d'Huez.
Indeed we did. This great cycling shrine, it's where the crowds become exhibitionists and the riders become angels. Marco Pantani was demonstrating how good he was at climbing mountains in front of 750,000 fans, and he was simply fantastic.
Well, I think this is really the climb everybody has been waiting for, Paul, and immediately the yellow jersey is there, the polka dot jersey is there, and Casagrande is there, and Riis is there.
Well, that's remarkable because, Phil, this is the mecca of the climbs for all of the climbers. Every climber wants to win here on Alpe d'Huez, and I'm quite sure Richard Virenque does as well, because he's never won a stage of the mountains in the Alps.
That's right, but he has won 2 stages in the Pyrenees as he now dances behind Jan Ullrich. This rider certainly isn't afraid to carry that maillot jaune right at the front of affairs, is he?
Well, it's amazing. He's now the leader of the Tour de France, and I would have thought that Bjarne Riis would have come to the front to help him out just a little bit, because he does need some encouragement. He does need somebody alongside him just to say, look, the team's here, we're still supporting you.
He's still looking for Bjarne Riis. He constantly looks over his shoulder to see where Riis is. He is an amazing rider. It's almost as if he's the reluctant leader of the Tour.
It's very strange to see him riding like this. There on the right-hand side is Elefantino, Marco Pantani, now nicknamed also El Pirato, the pirate. And he really is trying to put some pressure on these riders. Now he moves to the front, and Riis still looking very comfortable.
Well, he too has scored big victories in the Pyrenees, now looking for a win in the Alps as well. This is a savage acceleration by Pantani. This is on the early slopes of the climb as well. Virenque is the answer to it. He's right with him, but I wonder what damage he's doing behind. Everybody is filed out behind Marco Pantani. Ullrich is there as well. We saw Pantani throw his hat off just before he came through to start this acceleration. And this is the secret of good climbers, Paul, the way they can accelerate.
Well, it's not just that, it's the way they can accelerate again and again.
Now we've got these 4 riders going up the slopes. I have never seen so many people on this mountain, and I've seen every climb here except the one of Fausto Coppi. I'm not quite as old as 1952.
Well, Pantani's great to see him back. There's the earring that's earned him the nickname of the pirate. He's just getting into a rhythm here, just putting the pressure on everybody else. Looks over his shoulders to see what sort of damage he's doing. But, you know, he really is flying, and I think most certainly he's back. And I was quite convinced after that crash he had in the Tour of Italy that we wouldn't see a great Marco Pantani here in the Tour de France. But I think he certainly is back, and he's great.
A glance at the second group here. We've just seen Alano. There's Jimenez, the champion of Spain. There's Alano, 151. Escartin is here. Now, this is interesting. That's Laurent Madouas also in this group. Now, look at this, Paul. We've gone back to the leaders just in time because it looks as though they've cracked Riis.
Well, I think he's put the white flag up there because he couldn't stay with the pace being set by the 2 climbers. He's just going to ride at his own pace now and leave it up to Jan Ullrich in the yellow jersey to mark the 2 best climbers of this year's Tour de France, Marco Pantani and Richard Virenque. But still, Ullrich looking very calm, sitting down. It's amazing the power he uses when he climbs. And a man who thought he could ride well on the Alpe d'Huez, Luc Leblanc, also falling away from the leader. He's a long way behind.
Well, this hasn't been the season for poor old Luc Leblanc. He was looking set, and oh crikey, back to the leaders, and it looks as though Ullrich has cracked, unless Virenque opened the door and pulled round behind him.
Well, I think Virenque just couldn't stay on the wheel of Marco Pantani, and the reaction now has come by Jan Ullrich, and he's closed down on Pantani, the climber, so it just goes to show how strong the man from Germany is. To respond to an attack like that really is quite remarkable. The one man struggling now, Phil, is Richard Virenque. In fact, that acceleration out of the corner there has put the climber from France into difficulties, and he couldn't stay with the 2 leaders. So now just 2 men up the road, Marco Pantani in the yellow jersey of Jan Ullrich. But look at the face on Richard Virenque. He's suffering like a dog, and all he can do now is just hope that he can pull himself back.
Well, he knows he has a little bit of time in hand, and it's probably just as well, because I think he's finally decided to let the little pirate escape. He's 9 minutes 11 seconds behind Jan Ullrich in the overall classification, lying 5th at the moment, and so every pedal rev now will gain time on everybody in the Tour.
Well, the time gap's there, 22 seconds to Jan Ullrich, 42 seconds to Richard Virenque, and 1 minute 22 to Bjarne Riis. So Riis falling away quite rapidly.
This is not going to be the Tour of Bjarne Riis now, but it's still looking like the Tour of Jan Ullrich, because he's still second on this mountain despite the escape of Marco Pantani. Virenque isn't far behind, Casagrande, Riis, and we haven't caught sight of those for a while, but they are the next on the climb.
Here, in fact, he's joined by Francesco Casagrande, the Casagrande at the front in the red jersey. He's setting the pace, trying, I think, to make sure that Bjarne Riis and himself stay in the picture. But Marco Pantani, well, he's on a mission. He's looking to become the first rider to win 2 years in succession, I suppose, because the Tour didn't come here last year. So he's really hoping that he's going to be the champion and really walking himself into third place. This is the first time that Jan Ullrich would have experienced this climb with all the crowd out there. A lot of Germans have come now to the Tour de France as well to support this man, because I think they can see the makings of a champion, a new man on the block, the man who I think is probably going to dominate the Tour de France for the next few years. But Phil, just look at the crowds.
Well, officially they're telling us that 750,000 people are lining the 9 miles of Alpe d'Huez today. That might be an exaggeration, but when you see shots like that, I'm no longer sure it is. And Marco Pantani has now got himself between the barriers, the safe stretch of the course. And these barriers put up after that debacle we had a few years ago when Fabio Parra was brought literally to a standstill by the crowd and the block cars. But a fine right-hand turn by Marco Pantani. Taking your advice there, Paul, he went round the outside.
But I don't think he expected to be going quite that fast. He's flying up the final kilometre here of the Alpe d'Huez. But, you know, I hope he doesn't make the mistake he made 2 years ago, because he also nearly lost it in the final left-hand bend to the finish and went straight on into the parking lot.
Well, this time I think he'll be guided simply by the crowds and the barriers. We're now into the lovely town here on the top of the mountain of Alpe d'Huez. This town literally opens for the arrival of the Tour de France. In the next 48 hours, it will have all closed down again, awaiting the ski season. But at this time of the year, in July, it is vibrant, and there are thousands of people here now. We're going into the lower slopes of its streets, and then it will climb steadily to the summit.
Jan Ullrich riding very sensibly, still hovering around 25 seconds behind Marco Pantani. He's not pulling anything back, but I think he'll be very happy with the ride that he's put in today. But Pantani now into the town square. Across the town square, he'll get the left-hand turn, and then it'll be up to the finish.
He's got about 600 metres lead over Jan Ullrich as he heads up towards the finish. That's around 35 seconds. All the road is his now as he moves into the last 500 metres to the line. There'll be the sharp left-hand turn where even Greg LeMond has made a mistake at one occasion finishing here. You've got to watch it. It's easy to overshoot it, but Pantani now, this victory is going to be equally as special to him as Zabel's revenge on his disqualification last week was to him, because this means he is back as a big-time climber. He didn't have time to see himself on the big screen there as he swung round the left-hand bend, but now he's going to win this stage the second time in succession, although there's a gap of 1 year in between. Marco Pantani of Mercatoni Uno will be the winner at Alpe d'Huez today. He will gain time on everyone. He will climb up the overall classification as well. This is going to be a great feeling for him. He gets the victory, 203 kilometres covered. He's the first to the top of the Alpe, and the gap is around about half a minute for the next man. The Maillot Jaune of the Tour de France, Jan Ullrich, is coming home, and Ullrich again confirming he is most definitely the man to beat in this year's Tour, and I don't think anybody can or will.
The mountain parallel with Alpe d'Huez is Les Deux Alpes, and we go there for our next stage, stage 15, 1998.
Yes, this was a long stage as well, just under 5 hours. The weather conditions were not good, and it wasn't a good day for Jan Ullrich. He was in trouble at the bottom of the climb because he'd had a flat tyre. The Pirate was getting ready to leave the ship, and once we got onto the climb, of course, he would attack. It was a tough one for Ullrich, and he put his Tour in danger, and looking for the race lead was a man called Marco Pantani. And the man had attacked on the giant Col de Galibier as well, but still with 45 kilometres to go had he gone too far. Ullrich was forced onto the fence all of the time. This was to be a great stage, and in the thick of it too was Bobby Julich. And now, as we move on towards the Col de Galibier, conditions haven't changed at all here. Adolfo Massi has picked up both climbs of the Col de Croix de Fer and the Col de Telegraph. but conditions here on the Galibier are quite atrocious now. We're going up to the highest point of this year's Tour de France, and Pantani isn't going to wait. We're a long way from the top and a long way from the finish here, and nobody's reacted.
I make it 11 kilometres to go to the summit here, Phil, and Pantani has not waited. In fact, he's looking over his shoulder to see if there's any reaction behind, and it's coming from Luc Leblanc. Now, this man crashed on the first climb of the day, the Col de Croix de Fer. It didn't seem to affect him at all, and now he's got help, and that's what he wants, because there's an awful long way to go to the finish from the top of the Col de la Galibier, but it looks as if Luc Leblanc is in serious difficulty.
Well, he's tried to go across to Pantani, but I don't think he's going to even get onto him here, because the weather is bad, and I think Luc Leblanc is thinking better of the attack here. Certainly no reaction at all from Ullrich, content to set the tempo, because remember, this attack has gone very early. Once we go down off the Galibier, we run through the valley before we climb up to the finish at Les Deux Alpes, and this has caused all sorts of consternation now.
What a move by Pantani there. He's going to pick up Christophe Renera, who was away at the bottom of this climb now, and I'm sure he will go straight by him.
This is a serious move today by Marco Pantani. Remember, just over 3 minutes behind overall at the start of this stage. He's no longer looking for stage wins, Paul.
He certainly isn't. He's trying to blow the Tour de France apart this afternoon. Now, there is one of the team soigneurs, I think, from the Mercatoni squad. Now, that is probably an illegal move there, passing up a bottle to Pantani and also passing up a racing cape.
Well, somebody's gone behind that caravan. It looks as though it might be Bobby Ullrich in the corner there. It is. Ullrich's going straight on. He was trying to put his cape on as well.
Well, he lost it going around the corner there, obviously deciding to go straight on instead of trying to turn around there, and he's going to be quite scared on the descent now. He's obviously used that opportunity to stop and put his cape on. He's trying to wrap it up now. All of these riders trying to keep as warm as possible, because it's very difficult. Phil, there's a problem here with the yellow jersey.
Well, the yellow jersey, I think, has got a flat tyre, and it's another puncture here. We're not very far away from the climb of Les Deux Alpes either, and the weather conditions have closed in, and once again, Jan Ullrich is finding the Tour de France is not his friend.
Well, on the slope of the Deux Alpes already, Marco Pantani has started to climb up towards the finish, but that was a very slow wheel change for Jan Ullrich there, picking his way through the cars, and you can see there, this town we're coming into now is the start of the climb, Les Deux Alpes, so Jan Ullrich once again in difficulty at the bottom of a mountaintop finish.
Well, we are going to struggle to bring you the pictures now, but that is the time gap, I presume, back to the Jan Ullrich group, and that is 4 minutes, which puts Pantani in the yellow jersey now, and already Ullrich is out of it. What an amazing tour this is turning out to be, and we're still being run off at record speed.
And the big problem for Ullrich this afternoon is he does not have any teammates with him. They've all been left behind on the slopes of the Galibier, and Marco Pantani is riding a time trial here to what for him I think is going to be a second victory, because he's not showing any signs of being affected by the cold weather. He hasn't got a raincoat on now. He's obviously thrown that away, and he's going to ride up this mountain as fast as he can. But the drama further back, Phil, is Jan Ullrich cannot get into a rhythm, and in fact he's losing time on the Bobby Ullrich group, and still he has nobody to help him.
It appeared initially he was coming back, but he looks to me as though he's not just cracked physically, he's cracked mentally here. And the way he's dropped back now, he's a very lonely rider indeed. Nobody around to help him, and his Tour de France could be running away from him. And I never thought we'd say that this year. Well, he's very, very unhappy, that's for sure now. He's a little bit confused as well, is young Jan Ullrich. The Tour de France, he obviously didn't have the right depth of his form. We were wondering if he was overweight. He certainly isn't that, but I'm wondering too if his preparation hasn't been quite right this year. And Pantani is now going to find out the answer to that, because he is putting home the attack here. He is gaining minutes over the rest of the race. Here's Bogert now, but still staying in the frame.
Well, there's Bobby Ullrich as well, setting the pace, trying to pull back a little bit of time on Marco Pantani, but it's slipping away. 4 minutes and 4 seconds, 41 seconds behind him is Jan Ullrich. So Ullrich is slipping away, and Bobby Ullrich could be riding himself into the yellow jersey.
And there is now, Riis has now picked up Jan Ullrich, so it's looking as though he might get a little bit of help at hand here. And you know, I keep thinking about Les Deux Alpes, because they got the Tour away from Alpe d'Huez. The first time the Tour has been here, it's probably the most dramatic day we've seen in Tour history, in modern Tour history, and they've got weather like this.
It's quite a shame, but it really has created a dramatic race. Here's Bjarne Riis now trying to come back up to Jan Ullrich. It's as if the whole of the Telecom team have been devastated this afternoon. The racing has actually been up the Deux Alpes before, because the Tour of Italy came here several years ago. On that stage, it was Marco Pantani's teammate Bobrick who won the stage, and Pantani had a very bad day then. But today it looked as if he's turned the tables around, because he's flying up this mountain and really writing his name into a legendary mountain stage of the Tour de France.
Well, as we saw earlier, this mountain is for the Italians today. The borders are not very far away as the road goes on towards Sestriere. And Marco Pantani is giving the Tifosi exactly what they wanted to see. But I don't think even they believed they were going to see more than this man win the stage, and they are. They're going to see this man pull on the maillot jaune. Well, look at this now. Ullrich officially is 6 minutes and 10 seconds back now as Jimenez goes down on the inside of them. He was up with Pantani at one stage and he's completely blown. Jan Ullrich is suffering badly here. 6 minutes, I can't believe it. And almost 6 hours in the saddle as Marco Pantani comes into view of the crowd at the top of Les Deux Alpes. And again, a very fast stage, 33 kilometers an hour. So he's done it again. He's this time, though, what he wants is waiting for him. When he saw the route back in October, he said, the Tour isn't for me, I'll come out and win stages. He seemed to confirm that with a terrible prologue time, and now in the Pyrenees and the Alps, he's come right back into the reckoning. And Bobby Julich will not let go of this year's Tour de France. He continues on as he races now up to the finish. Also already gone through is Christophe Renero, so Julich will get 5th on the stage. And a lot further down, watch the time on the right here. Ullrich is 9 minutes back today. Nobody would have put a bet on that. Our camera's unable to follow Massi Escartin and Renero, but Bobby Julich was right in there, and I bet he was surprised today by the performance of Marco Pantani.
As the decade ended, Lance Armstrong started his reign as a champion in Stage 9, 1999.
Well, yes, indeed. After all of the colourful history of Lance Armstrong, he'd proved in his comeback Tour de France he really was a threat. He'd claimed the yellow jersey back off Jan Kirsipuu, and now he was on the big climbs, the very same climb that not so long ago Claudio Chiappucci had showed us what a good climber he was. But now the flags were for America. Well, we're on the Galibier now, and it should be enough to see him first over the top, but I really feel that this man Arrieta is out to soften them up for Alex Zülle further back. This is Casero now, and look at this, Armstrong is riding back up to them.
The sun has come out for Lance Armstrong to shine on him, because they didn't panic at all, US Postal. They waited until they got to the summit of the climb, and then they opened up the gas a little bit. Kevin Livingstone has done a remarkable job for Armstrong, and Virenque is accelerating to try and get himself some points in the King of the Mountains competition, but they are going to go to Arrieta, who will go over the top in first position here.
Indeed he will, and it is Virenque who's chasing him. His colours do look alike with Casero at the moment with his Polti colours, but this man is going to stop and pull on his rain cape. Now, as we start on to the next climb of the day here, up the climb of Mont Genève, this is the stepping stone to Sestriere. The top of this climb takes us into Italy, and a general regrouping. They're only 44 seconds back now.
And a lot of big riders in that group. Pavel Tonkov, Abraham Alano, they're all trying to get themselves back up to the yellow jersey group of Lance Armstrong.
Well, the field regrouped, a front group of some 9 riders getting together on the descent of the Galibier down into Briançon. And now on this climb here, Armstrong looks to be looking very, very good indeed here. We've got Casero and Virenque both together, and sitting there at the back is Contreras.
His face is complete concentration. He doesn't seem worried at all in these mountains. People like Chris Carmichael felt that Armstrong would be stronger in the mountains than in the time trial. Confirmation of the gap back to Abraham Alano's group there, 1 minute and 20 seconds. But the big climbers of the Tour de France here are in this group with Lance Armstrong. 1 kilometre to go to the summit of the Col de Mont Genève, and he's really doing a great job eliminating one man who he thought was a great challenger, and that's Abraham Alano.
And now Virenque is going for the King of the Mountains points here. Looks across. Armstrong allows nothing to move.
Armstrong very attentive, just waiting for any acceleration from these climbers. He used his team perfectly as Virenque goes over the top to get maximum points there. He waited until the last possible moment, and then when he had to assume control, he went away on his own and countered all of the moves. He's riding like a real champion, like a real master tactician. That's why he's used his team, and now he has to assume control at the front of the race.
and the gap has opened back to the Armstrong group. There's the Armstrong group, and two climbers unusually breaking away going downhill now have the advantage here on the way up to the finish. But this chase group here trying to reorganize itself. There'll be nothing from Contreras now because he's got his man away. Well, this is Kurt van der Wouwer, who's giving the Lotto team some hope that they have finally got themselves a climber on that team. Well, look at that. Armstrong has gone. He must have read our caption. 32 seconds to the two leaders, and he must have realised that is enough. He's now gone. Now, can they answer this one, Paul? Because the acceleration of this man is incredible. He's looking so good.
That was unbelievable. He took a few risks going up through the inside there because somebody could easily have closed the door on him. The reaction came from Contreras to try and pull it back. He's gone round that corner so quickly. He's taken it very wide. Alex Zulla's the man who must respond. 161, the white shirt there on the shoulders of the Banesto rider. He has to try and get up to Armstrong, but Armstrong is flying away.
But the acceleration of Armstrong is absolutely frightening here. This is the sort of move that you would have seen Eddie Merckx do in his day, and not the sort of move we ever saw Miguel Indurain do.
But look at that time gap. He's already nailed it down to 11 seconds. He's just 11 seconds behind Escartin and Gotti in the space of less than 1 kilometre. He's ripped across that gap and he's riding a superb race now. But there is a response coming from behind, and that is from Alex Zulla. Zulla realises that this is a dangerous move by Armstrong. There are the two leaders, Escartin in the green. That's Gotti in the yellow and red jersey from the Polti squad. But Armstrong has just ridden across like they were standing still.
Well, Lance Armstrong, who 18 months ago was contemplating a bleak future, never mind riding in the yellow jersey in the Tour de France. This was his big test day today, his next big test, and look how he's answered it. He's come right up to the two climbers. Goodness knows what Escartin thinks now. He's staring at the yellow jersey in the face.
Well, he must have expected to be able to put Lance Armstrong into difficulty today because Armstrong has not really known as a major climber. This is his first real test.
And now this is Zulla. Zulla is trying to get across on his own, so that group has been completely blown apart now. Alex Zulla is having to ride across to join this very elite front group, and I'm not so sure he can make this. We've got three up front. Well, around this corner here now, they might be able to see the chalets of Sestriere. This has been a good recovery by the Banesto rider. Zulla is inch by inch coming back up alongside these three front runners. So that leading group of 9 is now a very select front group of 4. Well, almost anyway.
Gotti again trying to put the others into difficulty. They've looked over the shoulders and seen the return of Alex Zulla. But this is a great ride. This is what a champion is all about.
And now look at him. He's lifted the pace again. Gotti in trouble, and Escartin isn't looking too happy either.
Gotti couldn't stay on the wheel of Lance Armstrong, and it was up to Fernando Escartin to respond. He's losing 2 or 3 bike lengths there, but that's not a problem. He's going to close it down on Lance Armstrong because he is a fantastic climber. But in fact, Armstrong looking over his shoulder, he's seen he's got the gap and he's going to keep going.
I think you're absolutely right, and in fact Armstrong here is just lifting his pace, and he's just riding 3 of the finest climbers in the world off his wheel, and he's jumped out of the saddle. He's suddenly accelerated, and look at the gap.
Well, he couldn't believe it. He looked over his shoulder and saw that he had a gap. He could see that they weren't responding to him. And that's when he got out of the saddle. That's when the attack came. He already had 10 lengths advantage. This is phenomenal. He's out of the saddle, pushing it home now. And this is when he's really got to stick the knife into the wound and go for it to the summit of this climb. The first day in the mountains come down with a big hammer on the head of the climbers.
Well, Armstrong came to the Tour de France as an outsider, possibly to finish well up. But now he really is looking like the possible winner of the Tour de France here. He's won both time trials. He's now heading up to a likely victory here at Sestriere. If you can win the time trials and you win the mountains, well, there's not much left but to win the Tour de France. And now Zulla is seemingly the only man between him and victory in Paris, because here he goes. He's dropped the other 2 and he's trying to reach Lance for the 2nd time on this climb. The finishing line is just up the road.
His last time check we got to Alex Zulla, who's 2nd man on the road at the moment, is 45 seconds. So Armstrong is opening up serious gaps. Very shortly he will get right into the town of Sestriere, and for the first time since the valley, the road will flatten out a little bit and he will get a chance to breathe a little bit more freely, because then he will know that he's going to get the stage victory and increase his lead. The The stars and stripes, they're all over France and Italy now, Phil, because this man is starting to get himself a pretty serious following.
But it's a long time since it flew for the leader on the yellow jersey of the Tour de France, and now it's flying for Lance Armstrong. This incredible fairy tale for him as he now pounds the road of Sestriere to an increase in his overall lead in the Tour de France. Armstrong has ridden brilliantly as he comes up towards the line. The rain has started to come down again as he races into the Italian village of Sestriere, where some of the great champions have won here in the past. But this man has got to be one of the greatest now. He looks over his shoulder. He will see no one. Zuller is around about 30 seconds behind. He does up the zip on his maillot jaune, and he's going to feel very safe tonight, even though we have a really tough day to Alpe d'Huez tomorrow in the mountains. Armstrong now has destroyed the field. He has spread them across the mountain by the best part of an hour today. A number of riders have given up, and the arms go up in salute.
So Lance Armstrong there, showing us how to climb mountains at the right speed to win stages of the Tour de France. Now here's Bill Strickland with some tips to help make you a better climber. Bill.
Thanks, Phil. First, we're going to take a look at how these champions climb in the saddle. Sitting is the most efficient way to climb. When you stand, you use about 12% more oxygen and spike your heart rate by about 8%. So it makes sense to stay seated as often as you can. Look at the racer's elbows, which stay bent and relaxed, and their backs, which never hunch. This keeps your diaphragm open for easy breathing and also keeps you from rocking on the bike, which wastes energy. Like our climbing champs, keep your hands on the brake hoods, or about a thumb's length from the stem on either side of the bar. You'll have more control, breathe easier, and stay loose. All riders start to tense up when the effort gets hard. To prevent this, focus on 3 key areas. First, move your jaw to keep it from clenching. Next, drop your shoulders to keep them from hunching. And finally, wiggle or drum your fingers. These 3 areas are barometers for the rest of your body. If you keep them loose, chances are the rest of your body will be relaxed as well. Synchronize your breaths to pedal strokes. This helps you pace yourself up the climb. Another breathing trick: to get great oxygen transfer, push your stomach out as you inhale. This takes practice. Most of us naturally pull our stomachs in when we inhale. As the climb progresses, alternate your position. Shift your weight back on your saddle to use your powerful hamstring and glute muscles. For continuous, intense power output, when the pedal reaches the 5 o'clock position, pull backward on it. You're doing this right when your heel drops on the downstroke. Then, after a few minutes, scoot forward toward the nose to give those muscles a rest and use your quads. 2 other positioning tips. With your upper body bent forward about 45 degrees, you use mostly the muscles in your butt and lower back. Sit more upright and you put more burden on the thigh muscles. Doing this can give one set of your muscles a temporary rest while you use the others. And the final point about sitting: don't worry if you lightly bob your upper body. The more still you are, the less energy you waste. But even the greatest climbers bob slightly. It keeps us loose and helps establish a pedaling rhythm. Although standing is less efficient, it's just as important to climbing success, because you generate a lot more power when you're out of the saddle. And it just looks cooler too. When should you stand? Well, there aren't really any rules. Generally, light riders stand more often than heavy riders. The right mix for most of us is about 10 to 25% of our total climbing time. Stand when you're responding to attacks, when the pitch gets severely steeper, or if you start losing power in the saddle. To make a smooth transition, as one pedal goes down, shift your weight onto it and rise smoothly out of the saddle. Shift up 1 to 3 gears. You can handle bigger gears when you stand. Chiappucci, Pantani, and some of the other racers we've seen are some of the greatest out-of-the-saddle climbers ever. The idea of standing is not just to use all of your most powerful muscles, but to let gravity do some of the pedaling for you. Let your body weight move the pedals by dropping onto them. 2 final tips about out-of-the-saddle climbing. To get maximum power from your butt muscles, they should feel like you're standing to get up out of a chair, not bending to sit in it. It's a very fine difference, but an important one. And when you're on really steep stuff, climbs with a 10 to 20% grade, Forget about pushing down on the handlebar with your arms. You'll climb better by pulling up on the bar on the same side as the downstroke. So far, we've talked about how to maximize your climbing ability, how to be a star. But what about those times when all you want to do is hang on to your friends and finally reach the top with the group instead of behind it? Here's a great strategy for survival. Most riders begin a hill in a comfortable gear and shift to progressively easier gears as climbing effort increases. Our survival technique goes against instinct. You shift to a harder gear when you start to slow down. Here's how to do it. As you start the climb, shift to an easier gear sooner than you normally would. Spin away on the bottom 2/3 of the climb. Wait for the right time to make your upshift. When your cadence begins to fade and you start moving forward in the group as your overgeared companions slow and begin shifting to smaller gears. Shift to a harder gear, 1 to 3 cogs smaller, and stand. You'll have a slower RPM, but this allows a more powerful pedal stroke with the same energy output. Don't accelerate. Your tendency will be to stand on the gear too hard. This might feel great for a few strokes, but you'll end up paying for it. When you sit, shift back to the easier gear. This works because you save energy while others burn it, and keep your heart rate down even when you shift to harder gears. But stick with this sneaky technique and you'll surprise your Superfly friends and yourself.
Hey, thanks, Bill. It's too late for me to learn, but I hope the viewers have learned something today. Well, we'll leave you with some of the heroes of the Tour de France in these marvellous images of the years gone by. For Bill Strickland, I'm Phil Liggett saying, hope you enjoyed the tape. Goodbye.